Hi, this is Doug Moench, and you're listening to Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast.
Yes, welcome back, Loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 144, kind of breaking a rhythm a little bit, coming into you a little bit early. Reason for that, I'll let you know shortly. I am one of your High Priests of Khonshu, Ray, and joining me for tonight's comic book issue is Knol Loony Toonz Tate. How you going, Knol?
I'm good. How are you, Ray?
Yeah, good. I was about to lead off with Looney Tunes, but I've got to put that in between.
Mm-hmm.
But no,
right.
Thank you so much for stepping in. We are going to do the reason why I say we are coming in early, Knol, as well, is that we're doing a classic run, right? We're doing a Doug Moench issue, Volume 1, Issue 13. The cream of the JEST, and I wanted to try and keep in with the phases of the moon. Now, if we waited until the weekend as well, Noel, that would mean that we'd have to do a toy figure review, Avatars of Vengeance, I think Khonshu's Idols, but look, there's nothing really to report there, so I thought, to respect Khonshu, because he did give me shingles, let's try and keep the phases roundabout right. So I still haven't got it right. It is a waxing crescent as we speak, Knol. A waxing crescent in Cairo, which means that we're meant to do a modern run. This is a modern enough run, I'd say. That's close enough. Okay.
Bending the rules to fit our.
I mean, otherwise we'd have to wait till May 18 for a waning crescent, which is a classic run. So Loonies, Knol is here. We are doing a LUNAR-PICK. We're going to do a modern run, and as mentioned, we're doing a Doug Moench, Bill Sienkiewicz, Moon Knight Volume 1, Issue 13. But before any of that, Knol, how you been, mate? It's been a while.
It has been a while. How have you been? That's the bigger question.
Coming back, I'd say about 95%. For people that don't know much about shingles, it kind of lingers on apparently, but well enough to have enough energy and not hurting anymore, which is good. But yeah, it's good enough to do a couple of shows in the last couple of days, so really
that's good.
Happy to be back into it. But yeah, Knol, yourself, how have things been we touch upon it with everyone that comes onto the show, the old coronavirus, the pandemic. How's life treating you now? Hazmat suit, I don't know.
I don't even have a proper mask, actually. I just wrap a scarf around my head when I go out, so yeah, not a hazmat suit. Okay. For me, life's been pretty much the same. I mean, I live a relatively solitary life, being doing what I do for a living with music, and so about half of what I do normally is recording bands, but all that work obviously has stopped, but there's still a lot of other things I do without people in the room, just me sitting alone in a room with some speakers and mixing or doing whatever. Yeah. So a lot of it's been the same. There's been less work, but things kind of slowly drip in, and then I, sit alone in my room like I normally do, and in my control room like I normally do, and just mix music and send things back and forth via internet. So, and I don't, I'm not a super social, go to the pub kind of person. So the biggest change in my life is really not walking up to the cafe to get a latte. So yeah. I don't know. It's weird. It's very. It feels very just odd. It's like I'm living the same life basically, but everything has kind of changed around me. So it's kind of weird to see. It feels like I think I said it to someone recently, it feels like the slowest 9/11 ever, where the world's falling apart, but it's not in just one big crash. It's just very slow, and things are slowly kind of melting.
Wow.
And everybody's slowly getting worried about, say, their jobs or the economy or the health of their families, but there's no shock of it, except for when you look at the numbers of here in the U.S. It's just awful. It's. I think they just saw this morning they reported 1 million cases of people in the country.
Wow. With
the virus. That's just here, and so
yeah.
I went and ran errands yesterday and just wrapped that scarf around my neck, and all I had to do was stop at a shop to pick up some some general things and run to a post office to mail out some art, and it was just a ghost town in places that were normally really full. So it's just weird. It's like a zombie apocalypse without the zombies.
It's certainly going to be, something we all look back on as kind of a defining moment, I guess, in our era, in our lifetime. So it is a strange time. Things are a little bare. It's a little, I guess, because of the population and our country's isolation as it is, it's a little less so here. But obviously all the measures are still in place over here. Like I was listening to our state premier this morning, and she was saying things have been the curve is flattening. There were 5 reported cases yesterday, which is a lot less than what we were usually getting on a daily basis. So stuff like tests, COVID tests are being issued out, and people are going to. So that's good, but we shouldn't be getting complacent. There's still idiots over here. No. We've closed down beaches, and they're still going on and pretending that there's some footy players. I watch rugby league, and a couple of them got pinged for going camping. There are like 15 of them. Two players and 13 friends or whatever, just riding their dirt bikes, shooting bottles and stuff. It's like, you idiots, I know you think you're invincible, but how about having some consideration for the rest of society, that sort of stuff. So it's kind of everywhere. It's very funny.
It's at sort of on a micro scale there, and here we have entire states that are doing stuff like that because their leadership is just like whatever, they can't, I've been trying really hard not to get on a soapbox about the worry of people. The only reason they want to open things up here is because of the economy, and they're afraid it's going to tank. But it's like it's already tanked. There's nothing they can do to save it except for to move to some sort of Star Trek economy, like it's like you could open up the beaches in like a place like Florida, but it's not gonna do anything to stop. The foresight is very short, I think. In a lot of places, and it's just it's chaos here. The leader, from the federal level says multiple things, and then the states say something else, and it's just it's a mess.
It's the same here as well. The government is really trying as quickly as they can, but at the same time politically telling everyone we're being as careful as we can, but they want to kickstart the economy. You can see it. They're trying to open stuff and relax just recently in place laws. But it's you're right. We've got it a little bit less over here, but it's still a crazy time. Anyway, Noel.
Yeah.
Yes. We shouldn't dwell too much on that. We have problems of our own, i.e. Jonathan Powers wanting to take the limelight as the Jester. We have big problems here, so we can't dwell on the minor stuff. we gotta get into the big stuff. But look, before we get into our usual segments, I also wanted to give a big shout out to the fellas who took the reins over in episode 143, released just a few days ago. That's Phil, Anthony, and Chad. Had a bit of a rollicking time there, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for freeballing it. It was a lot of fun, actually. I had a bit of a giggle myself at it. Unfortunately, Noel, you weren't able to make it. You were originally placed to be part of that roundtable discussion. I know Phil and Chad mentioned your mentions. I just wanted to quickly ask, top 5 Moon Knight artists. Yours were mentioned. Tommy Lee Edwards was one of them.
Yeah, which Anthony poo-pooed a bit, but I don't think he... I think when he was going through all of his artists, he may have overlooked some of the things. But yeah, Edwards was a big one for me, basically because I think he actually has a lot of, at least with that short run, had a very big Sienkiewicz sort of influence to his stuff on that. The sketchiness of it I thought was really cool, and you could tell that some of the more modern artists, I think, have kind of referenced some of that beyond just Sienkiewicz, because it was a very simple but rough kind of style to it.
Yeah.
Especially for being, what was that, like late 90s, early 2000s, late 90s. That was just I really liked his style. And then who else was on my list? Obviously, like Declan Shelby, which is very similar. I just those guys really liked. Why am I blanking on his name? The guy who did the bottom.
Stephen Platt, is it?
No, I mean that's every Anthony gave a good heap of shit to Stephen Platt, which is well deserved. They put him in the Liefeld sort of category. I would say he's a way worse offender than Liefeld. Even it's just a mess.
Yeah.
And I don't understand. I mean, I understand those issues are going for a bit of change because they're more rare for some reason. And he was a hit artist for a split second there in the 90s, thanks to like Wizard magazine. Yeah. But where is he now? Yeah. And it's just garbage. But who was the guy who did the bottom?
Oh, David Finch.
That's right, David Finch. They were giving a lot of love to David Finch, and he would be lowest very low on my list.
I remember your
just
thoughts.
Because it's just the style that sort of, it was a carryover of kind of the 90s style for me. A lot of veins and it's
bulging,
disproportioned, human bodies and stuff. And I respect. I think he was a good storyteller in his art. I just don't like particularly his. Everybody, like Anthony had mentioned, that everyone has kind of same face.
Yeah, I can see that.
And everyone's sort of scowling in that stuff. Even though the story is very interesting and his panel layouts and things I thought were good, it's just his actual illustrations weren't my favorite. But I think my top 5 would just be kind of Ron Garney. I thought was a good choice. Yeah. For the Scarlet story and Mark Spector, and I think a lot of those guys had nailed it. Declan Shalvey, Greg Smallwood, I think is really good, and the other artists that helped on that run really melded well. Yeah, it was a really good episode. It was fun. I appreciate those guys' takes on the artists that they liked, and it was fun to hear some chaos in how they ran the episode, and a lot of Anthony's bad Australian accents. He sounds a lot more New Zealand than Australian to me, but
he's got the Kiwi down.
Maybe that's because I just watched Taika Waititi's first movie. Yeah.
Is that from the Shadows or something in the? No?
Hunt for the Wilder People?
Oh, is that his first film?
I think that's his first film.
Oh, okay. Yeah, did you like it? It was very, very funny.
I loved it. I loved it.
Really good.
Yeah,
it's got a lot of heart. It's got a lot of heart in it.
It really does. It has some shocking kind of twists to it that I was sort of surprised about. And it's a great movie.
Yeah. I'm just going to throw it out there because I just want to also tie into a little small thanks to Josh as well in episode 141. Noel, Gary Quapitz. I don't know if that's... did he make your top 5? He did the art for Mark Spector Moon Knight 39 and 40, Impending Doom. Gary...
No, that would not make my top 5.
Okay, fair enough. no, anyway, that's yeah, I reckon apart from the mention of Finch and stuff, yeah, Smallwood, Declan Shalvey, big names. Jason Burrows, did you like his stuff?
I did. I liked some of Burrows' other work on different titles.
Yeah.
His sort of non-superhero stuff is a lot cooler to me. Just the horror sort of, anybody who kind of has an EC Comics influence is big on my.
Okay.
I just like that more kind of classic 60s and 70s sort of horror style, and he's able to meld that with more of a modern take, which I really like. I like his stuff on Moon Knight a lot, but yeah. I like his other stuff a little better.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of his other stuff, but I can really tell from what I've seen he really gets into it. He, you can see the craftsmanship he puts into it. I'm thinking of Crossed and stuff like that. The really
exactly
graphic stuff. So he's a great one of my favorites as well. All right, Loonies, just another quick a shout-out to our sponsors as well. As always, at the top of it, the Patronies. Thank you, guys, people that have pledged on our Patreon page. A little shout-out to our latest Patroni, Jordan Hegarty. Thank you so much for becoming a Patroni, Jordan. I hope I can do it justice, and thank you so much for sending some coin our way as well. Also, a shout out to Hello Headphones, empowering gamers to play at their best. So be sure to pick up some Hello Headphones products online. Just use RTK Moon Knight as a code. You get 10% off. Right. Anyway, Noel, we're moving on to just a little bit of, we've had a little bit of a catch up with how things have been going day to day. Reading wise, though, what have you been diving into more recently?
I haven't had, funnily enough, I haven't had as much time to read as I would like, just because I've been busy with other things, and it's sort of hard to keep concentration sometimes. Mm-hmm. But I've been reading a few things. I was rereading a book that a friend of mine did. It's a graphic novel. Well, it originally came out in, I think, mini comics. But it was put together as a graphic novel called Eel Mansions, and his name is Derek Van Giesen, and he's a now local Minneapolis artist. He's a musician, but he also has been doing comics for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's a really kind of surreal black and white, kind of noir story, but it's still it's hard to describe. It's a really cool story.
Right. So I'm just putting it down. Eel Mansions, as in eel the animal. That's
right.
Okay. Cool.
And it's on a local. Let's see, I have it right here. He's had some Fantagraphics put out some stuff for him, but Eel Mansions was on Uncivilized Books, which is a pretty well-known alternative comic publisher. And it's really funny and weird. It's very hip. There's a lot of music references.
Oh, cool.
Stuff in it, but it's a really cool black and white comic. So I've been starting to reread that again, and I picked up a couple books sort of lately that I'm trying to get into. One called Aphrodisiac by Jim Rugg.
Okay. So I'm just writing these down, Noel. So just don't mind me looking down. Just gonna add these to the show notes.
Yeah, Aphrodisiac is a cool book. Jim Rugg's a really cool illustrator. He also does a book called Street Angel that I haven't read yet, but I've been meaning to pick that up. I think that's been going on for years. And I think Image just put out the newest one. And Jim Rugg and Ed Piskor do a YouTube channel called Cartoonist Kayfabe that covers a lot of pretty cool stuff. I mean, for our listeners, they did a great interview with Bill Sienkiewicz maybe 6 months or so ago at a con, maybe Heroes Con or one of the cons here in the States.
Okay.
That was interesting, but they go over a lot of stuff. It's a neat YouTube channel. They have a mailbag where people send them stuff, and someone just sent them a big chunk of the Hulk magazines.
Ooh.
And they were flipping through and got some of the it must have been some of the later ones, but there was some color Sienkiewicz ones in there.
Yes.
That was pretty cool, and people just sent that to him for free.
Wow,
what the heck?
Have you got any of those? Have you got any of the Hulk magazines? No.
No, I've got those collections that Marvel did later with those stories in them. They did well. They're in the epics, right? And then they also reprinted floppy, like extended floppies or whatever they're called. They called them like special editions, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
I have those
with like a wraparound cover or something. It's like the is it a wraparound? It's like the black cover with Moon. Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
I think so. It's been a while since I've looked at them.
Divided We Fall or something like that. It's got some title. I know which ones you're talking about. I think there are a set of 3 of them, and they're oversized or something.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And then cool. Aphrodisiac's a really cool comic. And then what else have I been reading? Oh, do you know who Jeff Smith is? He did Bone back in the 90s.
Bone.
Bone was like a
the
black
comic,
and white comic.
The little white guy.
Yeah, that's the one. He did a book a little recently after he finished Bone called Razzle, about some art thieves. RASL, Razzle. And that's a really cool book. It's very different than Bone. It's not like a children's book per se.
Okay.
But it's very, very interesting. Really, once again, really cool art. But that's about it. And I haven't finished any of those books, but I've been kind of slowly going through them.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah, it's always good to have I mean, I always kind of read a fair few at the same time and just kind of slowly go through them. It's nice, rather than just kind of burning through one really quickly. I'm getting into a bit of really enjoying the Fantastic Four at the moment, just the old school stuff.
Which run?
So I finished reading the Epic collection, All in the Family. So it was in 1987. So it's the lead up to issue 300 and beyond. So it's like 296 or something to 300. It ends up in 306 plus a couple of annuals. And it's also got the Fantastic Four versus the X-Men, the original one. Which
I have those. I have those all in floppy.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think we were talking about it, Fantastic Four and X-Men, because I think we were talking about the Chip Zdarsky one, and I think you mentioned that you had the original. That was quite fun. That was okay. That was good. I just love the tone with the Fantastic Four. It's so different. It's so like familial. Which is understandable because the dynamics between them all. So it's just got this really different tone to it. And just today, I recently just finished Fantastic Four, going back even further, 164. That, and it still holds up really well. It's got an early appearance, I think, of a character called Crusader, who eventually turns into Quasar.
Right.
I think it's a mishmash of this old school Marvel boy. There was an old Marvel boy in the 50s, and he had an aesthetic very similar to Quasar, and I think it's this guy Crusader. I don't know. It's only part 1 that I've read, but again, really fun. Like with the Thing and Invisible Girl, she refers to herself back then as well. And I made particular note of Reed Richards and how he kind of treats Sue, and he wasn't too bad in that issue, but
But it's been a constant that they've kept. I think the good writers on Fantastic Four have really made note of how Stan wrote them early on, and have kept that dynamic throughout, which is really cool. Like I've heard that I haven't read any of Dan Slott's new stuff, but I've heard it's good, that he really knows the characters and knows the personalities.
Oh yeah, I mean Dan Slott's one is really has kind of reignited my love for them as well. So I was reading a lot of. I'm not collecting it thoroughly, but I got the first 7 or 8 of them. Really really good stuff, but too expensive to collect everything, so I kind of stopped. But then reading the older ones, really really cool. So I might I've got another Epic Strange Days. I think it's a bit later. I think it's might be Mark Waid. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But yeah. Also,
I haven't much.
Sorry.
Oh, I just haven't read much super modern Fantastic Four. Like I have the I can't remember what they're called. The old collections. I have the first,
Essential collections?
Whatever it is. No, not the Essential. It's not the black and white. The Marvel Masterworks of like the first 2 volumes of that for Fantastic Four. So, whatever it is, the first 20 issues or something.
Yeah.
But if you read that and you jump into John Byrne's stuff, I have a bunch of like random collections of 80s stuff from John Byrne and Walt Simonson and things like that. And there's a through line that's really cool through all that stuff.
Yeah, Walt Simonson's really good. I'm looking forward to doing a reread of that as well. I'm chasing the Epic. I think they've released one Epic around his time. So, yeah, but other than that, I mean, I've just been reading little bits of comics here and there. Finished my reread of Master of Kung Fu in the Epic collection again. Shang-Chi, very cool. Doug Moench and Paul Gulacy. Yeah. Really, and I think Jerry Conway does the earlier stuff, and even that's
I think he does the first couple.
Yeah, and it's still. I mean, the style is still there with Conway, and then what Moench does. A few more, how shall I say, kind of stereotypical Chinese proverbs in Moench's one, but it's still fun,
Yeah, and Gulacy's art is so good.
It is, yeah. Really love it. So yeah, Moench is very, very lucky to have worked with such good artists. I think is.
He really is.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's move on. I wanted to talk about. Look, there's not much news as well, Noel. I've only added a couple here. Very tangential. Apart from all the usual pizzazz in Moon Knight news about when it's going to be released, who's cast, blah blah blah. We all have heard that to death. There's one here on Doctor Strange because Bruce Campbell, since the announcement of Sam Raimi's been official that he's doing Doctor Strange 2, there's now speculation Bruce Campbell wants a part in Doctor Strange. And again, there's a little bit of fan casting as to who he would be fan cast as, which is, I love Bruce Campbell. I'm a big fan of Evil Dead. That's where Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 2, my favourites. So anyway, I'll put it here as well because they did mention the Jester, which I think he would be a good Jonathan Powers. He's a bit wacky. Then there's the obvious Doctor Strange villains, Nightmare, Mephisto. And I had to put it here because I thought it was funny. They reckon he could also play Dracula. And the article talks of, Dracula actually fights Moon Knight as well. So there could be a backdoor into the Moon Knight series. I'm thinking...
He's never fought Dracula.
He's never fought Dracula. The guys over at Moon Knight Corps have started something serious because now everyone seems to think that Moon Knight fights Dracula. So I thought that was a little funny. So whoever wrote the article obviously follows the Moon Knight Corps. Big shout out to those guys. Those guys are so cool. But yeah, so there's that article on Moon Knight, and there's this other one here. I think Phil put it up as well. Phil, he pokes the bear, doesn't he? Noel, Phil
he really does. Yeah, Phil, he needs to. Someone needs to put that guy in his place, and that guy is me.
Yes. I saw one of your posts. You better watch your back, Phil. I think that was. Yeah.
Better watch your back,
Phil.
Your
back. All in good jest. Phil's fantastic. Yeah, love his shows.
Love that guy.
Yeah. Captain Lunatic, Sidekicks, all the work he does is fantastic, as well as hosting Into the Night. Anyway, there's this article here. I'm not going to get into it, but it's one reference, right? Almost Batman, who were Marvel's best Dark Knights, and obviously Moon Knight is there. A string of others, Daredevil, Night Thrasher. I think I
was going to say, Daredevil. I would have to be on that list.
Yeah, all the usual suspects. But again,
did you ever read that Daredevil Batman crossover?
I did get it digitally, like a certain copy, but I didn't read it. No, yeah.
It stinks.
Was it in the 90s? It had 90s art, kind of 90s looking art. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad I'm... Was Batman favoured in it? No. You don't know?
It's pretty... I don't think I even made it through it all the way. I was just interested in it, and then I was like, nope, this is terrible.
Yeah. Got easily distracted. Like, oh, commercial on TV. I'll watch that instead. Alright, well, that's all the news. Very scant, loonies, and, rightly so. There's nothing much happening anywhere on the entertainment front, unless Moon Knight is doing his own broadcasts from home. Everyone seems to be doing. Anyway, Noel, why don't we take a quick break? We'll come back, and loonies will get cracking. Noel and I will look into this modern run review. A LUNAR-PICK, Moon Knight, number 1, issue 13, the cream of the JEST. See you soon.
Hey everyone, this is Brian, the host of Inner Demons, the Ghost Rider podcast. And since 2017, Inner Demons has been the best place on the web for news, reviews, and regular discussion with our listeners about Marvel's Spirit of Vengeance, Ghost Rider. You can find us on Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and many other podcast catchers, as well as on Twitter @InnerDemonsGR. Remember, listening to your inner demons is not always a bad thing. Ride on.
We Are Venomaniacs is the Venom Site official podcast for all of your symbiote news, reviews, and point of views about Venom-related comics, movies, television, animation, and merchandise. We are available on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Google Play Music, and YouTube. Join us, won't you?
Yes, welcome back, loony listeners. This is Into the Night, episode 144. We are back after that break, and I'm joined by Knol Loony Toonz Tate. And we're looking at a LUNAR-PICK modern run review. Moon Knight, Volume 1, Issue 13, the cream of the JEST. I keep on saying that title, Knol, because I don't know, call me juvenile, I find that hilarious.
I do too.
You just keep a damn more straighter face than I do. Available loonies if you're ready to read along with us. It is in floppy form, as Noel has shown it on the video. I'm showing it as well. I brought my floppy out as well. And it's also available on the Epic collection. Now, unfortunately, these are all out of print, apparently now. Volume 2, Shadows of the Moon. So if you're lucky to find Volume 2 of the Epic collection, go grab it. And the Long Gone Essential collection, I think it's a Volume 2 as well. That's out of print. That's in the black and white, nice newspaper kind of stock. Anyway, we'll get into it. Noel, would you like to read the credits?
I'll do the credits if you do the bare bones.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not quite awake enough to even focus on my screen right now. Well, is it? It's not on Marvel Unlimited.
No,
right?
I don't think it is. I don't think it is.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, Volume 1, Issue 13 was released November of 1981, and it was Doug Moench writing, Sienkiewicz doing the pencils and the inks, Christie Scheele, doing the colors, great letterer Joe Rosen doing the letters, and of course edited by Denny O'Neil. Yeah,
mighty team there, mighty good creative team there. And so the bare bones, for those that don't know, is a little short synopsis, and then Noel and I will get into some aspects. We'll just freeform it here with writing, art, themes, characterizations, any references to other runs. But this bare bones comes courtesy of Wiki, and it goes like this. Both out on parole, cellmates Jester and Ace Taggert have teamed up to get revenge on those who wronged them. Jester wants to target James Martin, the director he blames for the end of his acting career, and Taggert has vowed to kill Moon Knight for putting him away. Both Daredevil and Moon Knight anticipate foul play on news of the convicts' release and converge while tailing the Jester. Daredevil is ready to stop the Jester as soon as he sees him doing something illegal, but Moon Knight knows he has to keep tracking Jester to flush out Taggert, so he attacks Daredevil to stop him from attacking Jester. After the inevitable fight come the inevitable explanations and the inevitable team-up. Moon Knight and Daredevil catch up to Jester and Taggert at the robbery of Martin's Broadway debut. Jester thinks he is about to get away when he grabs the ladder attached to the helicopter that he believes is piloted by Taggert. But by that point, Taggert has already been caught and Frenchie carries Jester over to the police. So there you go.
Yes, indeed.
That is a very short, very concise synopsis. Thank you, Mr. Wiki, or Mrs. Wiki, Mrs. Wiki. And anyway, so let's get into it, Knol. Overall impressions first, I guess. What did you make of this issue overall? It's a nice little one and done, isn't it?
It is a one and done. It seems very... There's something kind of like Silver Age about the writing in this one, I feel like. It doesn't have... I don't know. It's a fun comic, but it doesn't have sort of the typical menace that a lot of the Moench stuff does from the late 70s and early 80s. It feels very, how to put it? It's almost kind of goofy, you know? Like the first few pages feels very Moon Knight. There's, a lot of thought bubbles for our heroes. But when they come crashing together from then on, it just becomes really just a goofy kind of comic. And some of this, the story just feels very kind of tucked away in a drawer and put together later as a kind of almost a fill-in issue. It doesn't have some of the same heft that I think Moon Knight, starting in Volume 1, really had right away. It seems almost like I don't know, yeah, like it doesn't quite seem like Doug Moench writing to me.
Yeah, look, I actually put that testament to the range of Doug Moench in the fact that it is like, I picked up on that straight away as well. It doesn't feel like the previous 12 issues at all. And I think it's down to Moench trying to tap into this character of the Jester. I mean, you mentioned as well the first few pages are kind of typical Moon Knight, but I think the very first page, Moench is he's already off the ball here with Jester breaking the fourth wall and speaking to us straight away. And it kind of sets the tone, I think, for it there, for this kind of goofy nature. And you've got to, I think it has to kind of be goofy. I mean, Jester himself, if you look at it, he's a failed actor who has a grudge against, I guess, the industry as a whole, if not just the director, and that's what's basing his inception as the Jester. And so I think Doug Moench does a really good job, because I'm not used to actually reading Moench with a bit of a lighter touch, and I think he voices a Jester really well here. But you're right, it's not really that kind of grimmer kind of corner of the universe that we associate with Moench. We still get Jenna's Diner, we still get Crawley, which is cool. What I liked about it is that the games arcade, the pinball arcade, it kind of really brings it down as well to just street level as well, where they're just fighting in there. But yeah, it is quite different. Did you find it a bit off-putting, the goofiness, or did you kind of enjoy it?
I would say, I guess I did find it slightly off-putting. If this was like the first Moon Knight comic I ever read, I don't know if I would continue on with the character. There's some, it seems very standard kind of like Daredevil seems more interesting than Moon Knight does in this comic, honestly. Just because he's I don't know, it's weird. It doesn't seem as much like a Moon Knight comic book to me, even though we get the first quarter of it is dedicated, and that feels in the world, obviously, and it's the classic early Moench stuff where he says that Mark Spector doesn't have DID, but obviously has DID. Yeah. Like what is it? Just like the second page alone, he's talking to Marlene, and she's like, "What is it, Steven?" And then a second later, he's like, "I'm Jake now, doll."
Yeah.
So that all feels like in character, but when it comes to some of the Moon Knight dialogue later, it's very kind of sort of one-dimensional.
Yeah.
To me, it's not very. It doesn't feel as brooding and as exciting as even some of the issues before this one are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Moench puts the spotlight on having two heroes fight each other, to the detriment of Moon Knight, like as a character, because if you look at it, Moon Knight does really dumb things. Like I was reading it, going, "What are you doing?" There's a whole thing of miscommunication again. Why don't you bloody talk to Daredevil instead of attacking him? So basically, he attacks Daredevil.
Well, because it's a crossover, we have to have them fight.
I know, yeah.
That's the rule.
They have to make,
and he gets out. They team up.
Yeah.
Within like one panel, they realize there's that great scene where a couple of the kids in the arcade are like,
yes.
"Hey, you're some heroes, you're trying to kill us or something," and then Moon Knight's just like, "Hey, I'm Moon Knight," and Daredevil's like, "I'm Daredevil," and they're like, "What do you say we just team up instead?" They're like, "Here we go."
Yeah,
and it's like, what the hell?
I know.
And that's a trope of the team up. I know, but it's just done. It's like Moench almost seems like, okay, I guess I have to do this. Let's make them fight. We'll have a cool scene where they're fighting for a second and just destroying an arcade, and then with one sentence, basically, like, "Oh, I guess we're on the same side." Well, like, no shit, you're both dressed up like goofballs. Of course you're on the same side.
And they have a reputation, unless Daredevil doesn't know of Moon Knight, but they surely would know.
Well, he doesn't. He says he doesn't because he's just, he's just like, "Hey, you don't, then my name's Moon Knight," and he's like, "Okay,
yeah,
sure."
But it's I know it seems like. Maybe Moench was asked by the editors to do a matchup. We need Daredevil here. How are you going to do it? So I reckon, I'm just looking into the mind of Moench, he's probably going, okay, well, how do I make this interesting? Okay, why don't we just set it in a pinball arcade? And that will be the interesting game, because let's face it, everything else is a trope. Basically, the stupidity of Moon Knight, I think, of just like going, well, hang on, I want to get to Taggert. So we can't have Daredevil getting Jester. So what am I going to do? I'm going to attack Daredevil. It just doesn't make sense,
No, but that's how you have to set up.
That's how you set
the
up.
Fight.
Yeah.
How else are they going to fight?
Oh, it's so.
I think it's actually not a pinball arcade. I think it's a video game because there's
a video game. Well,
yeah. And he says, 3 space invaders with 1 torpedo.
And what I find also actually quite endearing, Noel, is reading this floppy as well, and then having these ads in between it.
I was just going to say, yeah, I love that's something why I like getting floppies when I can. Like I picked this up for, probably $1, which I'm very happy. I was able to pick up a lot of Volume 1 for pretty cheap. And I love the newsprint. I like seeing the errors that come with the printing and stuff, and just like the bottom of the page, sometimes some of the text gets a little blurred, and all these goofy ads. I love it.
Look, my favourite, I've just got to call out, there's this one here, Noel, I'm not sure if it drew your eye. There's one here, be with your favourite comic character. So you can send a photo of yourself in to the company, and I think they'll make a t-shirt of you. And I'm assuming you with your favourite superhero. And then they say also as well, and your original photo will be returned unharmed. So you can rest assured that they won't destroy the photo that you send to them. Very funny stuff. But okay,
where is that ad?
It's on the top left corner. It's right after there's a little origin of Jester. The page after that, when he's talking about his acting failures, and then the next page. They don't have page numbers here, which is.
Oh, I see it. Yeah. No, they don't on the floppies. Oh, yeah, on the page full of all the
very
2-inch ads or whatever.
Looking woman in her T-shirt of herself.
She looks a bit of a blur to me, but yeah, she's making an alluring pose. Yeah, these are some of my favorite pages, not the full page ads, but just the ones where they cram in a ton of. There's the one of like the
they do, don't they?
Like the off. Is that supposed to be Thor? I don't know. Marvel Comics Group checklist and prices.
Oh, look, Knol, there's one here right for you. If only you could have made good with this. Let our professional...
Poem set to music?
Yeah, that's it. Let our staff of professional songwriters turn your words into a song. That's so cool. Wow.
They're all scams. Actually, speaking of that cartoonist Kayfabe channel, they did one this past week on... Jim Rugg had made an ad zine where he went through and copied out and clipped out a bunch of his favorite ads throughout the years that have been in comics. And put it together, so it's just a whole like floppy style comic of just some of the funniest ads that he's ever seen. And they were talking about how 90% of these were total scams.
Yeah.
Before there was a lot of regulations. It's just like, learn kung fu, get strong muscles, get prizes for your cash. Like, they're great. Anyway, back to the story.
Well, yeah, we're just looking at a whole page of spam, basically, Knol. Anyway.
That's exactly right.
So back to the story. Look, I just wanted to touch upon the art as well, Knol. Like, we know how cool Sienkiewicz is and how good he becomes. Even his art here is very, very good. I wanted to point out, I was really impressed with how he portrayed Daredevil. I think he gets the movement of Daredevil.
Yeah,
really,
I was going to say that too.
Yeah, like he puts him in actually in poses that you wouldn't associate other artists do. Like he does a tucked somersault, like in the air, and just the way he kind of swings in the air. He has this sense of grace about him, which is far more than Moon Knight looks. I wouldn't say clunky, but he looks a lot more weighted. Like there's that one where there's a whole page of Daredevil, like. It's when Moon Knight throws his Crescent dart to snap the line off his billy club, and you see Daredevil turning into a tucked somersault. He bounces off a car or something. But then you see Moon Knight, just a silhouette, and with his glider cape, he just looks like a huge kind of...
Well, he looks much more menacing, which is very Moon Knight, which is really cool. Yeah, I know it's very... some of the later... sort of a Daredevil and Elektra stories that Sienkiewicz did. It's like really weirdly similar to this.
Oh, okay.
Just like his Daredevil, the suit looks very spandexy and form-fitting, which he kept for the later Daredevil stuff that he did. And it looks fantastic. All the figure work for every character in this looks really, really good. There are a few things in some of the storytelling, some of the panel layouts that get a little confusing sometimes.
Oh, as you mean leading the eye? Because I was thinking about that myself. Yep. Like, okay, should I be looking at this panel? And then I made sure that the panel under it wasn't coming up, Yeah. I think there was one bit where the robots of the Jester... There's around that period.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah. Yep. When things get sort of chaotic in the theater... There's some of the things where each drawing itself looks fantastic, but it's hard to tell exactly what is going on, and that's some things you could tell he's still learning some of that stuff. Where he becomes a master of it, like within 6 months almost of this issue, or within a year of this issue. But he's still kind of learning, and part of that might be trying to follow Doug Moench's script. Like how do I do this?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of reminds you of, I guess, the intensity. I mean, we've heard Doug Moench talk about how industrious he was with his writing, and you know, to meet the deadlines and the longer stories. I can only imagine as well Sienkiewicz doing the same. So
exactly,
to learn so quickly, they were really in a like a melting pot of. You kind of had to learn quick, didn't you? So yeah, I mean, I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, again, Moon Knight looked really, really good. As usual, you're right. The body movements. I mean, Sienkiewicz has really got a top handle on that. Yeah, I thought.
Yeah, that's really where sort of his Neil Adams kind of comes out with that stuff. I think his faces and character work and stuff is. I've never really thought of him as a Neil Adams clone in that way. Mm-hmm. I think his stuff has always been a little bit more. Illustrative and like almost abstract in a weird way.
Yeah.
But like his figure work, I think, and things like that are just very. There's, you know, the panel where there's two panels actually where after Moon Knight and Daredevil's stupid fight in the one page where they decide to make up. There's just a great shot of both of them running at the camera.
Yes. Yeah, I'm looking. I've got that page on right
now. And that's just very Neil Adams right there. It's just like that's. Really great figure, like the shoulders on both of them, like Moon Knight in particular, his shoulders look enormous and just very like three-dimensional coming at the camera. It's like, okay, there's that Neil Adams thing.
Yeah.
But his faces, there's a couple pages later, there's a great side shot of the Jester, and it's just pure Bill Sienkiewicz right there. It's just really good.
Is that one him talking?
Or he's like
talking into the walkie-talkie? No?
No, there's that one. Yeah, that's good. But there's one, even the next page, where he's spinning something on his finger.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like from a lower perspective, looking upwards. Yeah, very cool.
Exactly. It looks great.
Yeah, no, that is good. I wanted to point out, you mentioned it before, that page with them running towards the camera, so to speak. But above that, I love the headshots because I haven't seen it
of the kids.
Yeah, I mean, just cramming six headshots, all in a row. It just, I don't know. It's just something that you don't usually see. But
that might be the best bit of visual storytelling in this whole issue, actually.
Yeah.
Just those quick 6 panels kind of gives you a what good, you know, sort of back and forth between all these people in a room being like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then those two realizing, I guess we kind of fucked all these kids up. All right, well, let's get out of here. Yeah, I think I got to have a lump on my head. I'd be like, I'm suing these guys.
I've got a crescent dart kind of wedged in my eye. Oh, yeah. I think we better stop fighting. Yeah. It's actually funny here. It's actually interesting here as well, just as an aside. Moench does not make mention once of Daredevil being blind, which is pretty cool because you generally always kind of get that just in case you have a new reader, people want to know Daredevil. What is he? I mean, you get the sense of his radar sense and his keen senses, but there's no real mention of it.
Actually, I think there is one There's one mention, I think, actually.
Is it?
I think he just I mean, I can't remember. He just calls him like the Blind Avenger or something like that.
Oh, he does.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah, or the blind swashbuckler or something like that.
Right.
Just one quick mention of that.
Yeah.
And Daredevil hints a little bit to like he was like, I hear something coming at me. It sounds bigger than a bullet, bigger and slower than a bullet. What the hell is it? And it's the Crescent dart chopping his line.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Oh, well, yeah, he's saying that to himself. And we get also, again, it's just sticking to art, that god-awful moon copter. I'm just jumping around here with Frenchie towards the end.
There's one little shot of it from above.
Oh, that's enough for me, you know? It's just like...
It looks a little like a penis.
I was about to say, you got the knob, and then you got like a crescent dart. Like along the shaft.
Someone threw a crescent dart at that guy's penis.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, thank God they changed it. My God.
Not a great design.
So that must have been.
But Frenchie looks great.
Frenchie, yeah. Again, he's slighted. You know, at least we get a little bit of Netta and a little bit of Marlene at the beginning, so that's pretty cool. And Marlene gets a beautiful.
There's a great shot of Crowley too with the flies, just classic.
Yeah, actually, you're right. And he he comes home with...
There's some great mime, or whatever you want to call it when you illustrate. Just like Crowley with his mouth wide open. Yeah. He's like the costume miscreant who harassed Daredevil a few years back. Like, why is he yelling? It just looks great.
And there's a little bit of humor in there as well. You see Jake Lockley slapping Crawley on the back, and it kind of that's some just great mime stuff. You can really see Lockley is like, you can just tell by that one picture of him slapping Crowley on the shoulder and having his arm up that like he's jovial and he's being very like New York cabbie. That is some great stuff. You mentioned that as well. I want to call back to, again, just with the artwork. If you look on the very second page, I kind of made a mental note of this as well. When Stephen or Jake, whoever you want to call it, because he's got the mustache on, when he slaps the newspaper in anger, that's so cool because you don't usually see that, but you can tell how annoyed he is with that movement. Like, I was wondering, what did he do? Oh, okay, he's kind of slapped the newspaper because he's angry.
Oh, and just the look on Jake's face, too. You get the eyebrow is tilted back, and he put one in the shadow. Yeah. Half of his face is in deep shadow, so you could just see the anger on that. And then the next panel of Marlene with her hands on her face, just looking at him is an amazing illustration.
She always has the nice kind of poses, doesn't she? So,
I wish I could draw like that. Yeah. That's just amazing.
So cool. So anyway, apart from the art, characterizations here, Daredevil was pretty much... you think the voices... Moench got the voices right? I think he was pretty good in them.
Yeah, I think Moon Knight's a little back and forth
he's
as far as the characterization.
As you mentioned, he's probably the weakest one here. Jester is very strong because I think Moench does a lot to try and kind of sell Jester to the reader.
Yeah, he really does. And it seems like he just did his homework on the Daredevil Jester story from years before.
Yeah. Actually, I wanted to call out that, Knol, so I've got this as well. I've got the Marvel, this is my old Marvel Universe handbook, and it's got Jester in there. And so in the story, it does mention, because I wanted to find out... Jester uses those popcorn explosives on Daredevil, and he makes mentions, I'm not going to fall for that again. I'll put nose...
Fall for that again, yeah.
So, I guess they did meet, so I guess it would be a reference to around about Daredevil 42, and that's...
Yeah, really early.
That's really...
Stan Lee created the character.
Yeah, and actually I'm not surprised because earlier Daredevil villains...
Because he's goofy as hell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What do you call it? The Toreador? He was one of the most... Yeah.
Right.
Very crazy. But anyway, so 42, and that pretty much sums up... It's a whole Cyrano de Bergerac thing that did the Jesters that Moench kind of recaps here as well. So...
Yeah, there is, now that I think about it, there really is kind of, maybe some of the goofiness does feel like a bit of an homage to Stan in some of that writing.
Yeah.
So that kind of changes my mind a little bit about, it's just weird. I feel like the two aesthetics aren't meshing.
It's because it's because you're so used to, like, you're kind of confronted. You in general are confronted with the Sienkiewicz art, and we associate that with the sort of Moench storytelling. But yeah, actually, that's a really good point because you did mention Silver Age at the beginning. It could very well be like a little nod that Moench is doing towards Stan Lee and the Jester. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just the fact that the Jester was created out of that era and trying to bring him into like the modern, as we're calling it right now, era of like the darker vigilantes. Like Daredevil's a much different hero in 81 than he was in 1968 or whatever. But like the exploding popcorn and like. You're telling me the Tinkerer made robots for the Jester? This guy who just got out of prison? Where does he get these freaking like Doombot things?
I know. He's pretty good, isn't
that he can remote control. It's just like that seems very kind of out of character for this kind of comic in the 80s. Like it would maybe fit more in something of even the Fantastic Four was a little bit more realistic in this kind of era.
Yeah.
so some of it doesn't quite play with me like that. It's just it's hard to mix those. I always love a good classic Marvel callback, but trying to mesh the two styles isn't quite working.
Yeah, no, that's a fair call, I'd say. But he is a lot of fun. The Jester. I was just having a look here in the Marvel Handbook in case he has any genius intellect. He doesn't, and you're right. As you mentioned, he contracts the weapons maker, the Tinkerer, to give him all the stuff. But he and again a callback as
anybody
well.
Who has some gimmicks.
Yeah, but also a kind of sign of the times as well. He's very good at fencing, which is not, the most popular of arts these days. But he's...
No, I did have a friend, though, in the 80s when I was in school who took fencing classes. Like the rest of us were taking karate, and he was taking fencing.
Well, don't cross...
So maybe it was a thing.
Maybe your friend turned into the Jester. You don't know. So yeah, okay. I mean, so those were the only other thing as well, reference-wise, Knol, and I didn't do the homework on this one, and maybe, I don't know if you know, Taggert, because he vows revenge on Moon Knight. I don't recall him in any of the earlier runs.
This is his first appearance.
Oh, it is. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so that just kind of came out of nowhere. It was like, we need to give the Jester somebody to team up with, so Moon Knight has some excuse to get into this fight. But yeah, I looked it up, and I was like, this. I don't remember reading anything about this character before, and this is his one and only appearance.
I would have liked. This is only a small quibble. It would have been good then if Moench did maybe tie it into, because he's made countless criminals in the previous issues as well. It would have been fun, just to, that guy, he was in issue 2, that would have been pretty cool, because the fact that he's got a history with Moon Knight kind of warrants it, doesn't it? But anyway, it's only a small thing, because at the end of the day, the Jester is the main villain, and it's funny that the guest Daredevil, rightly so, because it's his nemesis, has dibs on the big villain. Moon Knight is actually only tracking some no-name Taggert, who's only appeared in this comic one and only time.
Yeah, and it's actually a testament to what you're saying. It's really funny that it's just like Daredevil's like, okay, I'll go in the theater and take care of this guy. Moon Knight's like, okay, I'll take care of the guy I'm tracking. And then there's 4 panels. He's Jester, I'm on my way, and which is really funny. And then Taggert goes to get in the car, and Moon Knight just kicks him in the face, and that's it.
Yeah.
Basically, one panel takes him out, and then he was like, okay, well, that was easy. Yeah. I'm going to go see if Daredevil needs any help.
It's like, oh, geez, I thought it'd be a lot harder than
which
that.
It's kind of, which I think that's sort of in keeping with Moon Knight. Like, people have kind of had that characteristic of, if it's kind of a minor thing, Moon Knight has no problem just kicking somebody in the face and being done with it.
Yeah. True.
He just takes care. Like I always think the classic. What Warren Ellis really did with his run is kind of focus on that fact that like Moon Knight can just take people out with no effort whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's like not a thing. He just drag it to a 3-page fight. It's just one panel, boom, that guy's gone. Another panel, boom, that guy's gone.
Yeah.
He takes out the sniper in Snipers real quickly.
Yeah.
It's like not even a thing.
Well, he seems to have these polar opposites, because you're right, he does take on the street level criminals with ease, it seems, but then he kind of takes on people like Morpheus, the Sun King, and
which would be a bigger fight for just a guy who, in all reality, is just a well-trained mercenary.
Yeah. It's kind of like all or nothing for him. He's either way overpowered, for your normal crim, or he's way underpowered. So.
Which I actually like that.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
But then it becomes really just a Daredevil story, and I guess that's where some of the storytelling and the art starts to get a little messy when Moon Knight jumps in. Like he's just kind of taking out some robots, and it's kind of hard to follow what's going on. And then it's just over. The last page is really funny to me. It's just It's just those two laughing.
Yeah. Well,
which is very Stanley, you know.
Yeah. It is very classic. I love also the fact that Moon Knight, again, you see a little bit. He's kind of whacking, like whack, 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 whack. That robot with his truncheon. He's trying to dismember it. But yeah, the fight's over very quickly. Jester gets in one good shot to Daredevil because he was distracted by the explosion. You get nice little nifty toys again, the airplanes with the drill bits, and one exploding. But yeah, that ending bit is pretty funny. I thought that was I thought that was pretty cool as well because it made Moon Knight look pretty cool at the end because he had it all figured out. Like Daredevil was kind of going, "Oh, what are you doing? You want to start a fight again? You want to go in? No, just relax. Let's just watch."
Yeah, Moon Knight's like, no. I've come up with an ironic way to catch you. It'll be more fun. Trust me.
Exactly. Yeah. And that thing at the end is it's like Scooby Doo at the end, isn't it? Just all having a bit of a laugh.
It's absolutely Scooby Doo. Yeah, the second to last panel, the smile on Daredevil's face is great.
Really cool.
And then when they both laugh.
And then surprisingly, you have to do it at the last panel. You kind of see a bit more. It's just like a light blue then for Moon Knight's kind of shrouded face. But
yeah, so you're able to get an expression out of that. That's about the best way you could get an expression out of that mask. Yeah,
it's either that or just the eyes, but you can only do so much with the eyes, I guess. So, Sienkiewicz did well. That was. Any other maybe final notes, Noel, before we go to a rating?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I just think it's a little... the art is fantastic. The Jester bots look like Dr. Doom, even.
Yeah, they do.
Just flip through that page.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a Moon Knight comic.
Yeah, pretty cool. And
technically.
Yeah, and look, I'm glad it's just like a one thing because it's its own thing, and you wouldn't want it to drag over like a 2 or 3 parter. It's there's not really...
No, it feels like it's... I would wrap it up by saying it's the classic example of an editorial mandate. How are we going to sell these Moon Knight comics? They're not flying off the shelves. Put Spider-Man in it. Nope. We can't allow Spider-Man. How about Daredevil? Fine, put Daredevil in the comic.
So Daredevil has been consistently a good seller, right? Nowhere near as good as Spider-Man. I'm wondering, around 1981, because this is still... Am I right? Is this still pre... Oh, this is around Frank Miller's time, isn't it?
This is around Frank Miller, yeah. He was starting to... Even if he wasn't a... I don't know what the numbers were, obviously, back then, but, at least, people were paying attention to Daredevil.
Yeah. So it is timely, I guess, that he's been used here. I was about to say, 81, right. So late 70s, 80s, I think Frank Miller started. It'd be interesting to the reception, because what I've heard was that he was doing such a turn of face for Daredevil. I would only imagine that had mixed reviews. You'd have the purists going, "Oh, hang on, this is not our Daredevil," because Frank Miller was introducing all these elements, like the ninja elements, a lot more grounded, like with Turk, and very, very street level. But it must be doing something if the editorial decided to inject Daredevil with the Moon Knight title.
Yeah, if that was the case. And I can see Moench just being like, okay, Daredevil, I remember that goofy character. That would be fun. Let's throw the Jester in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
well, Noel, having said that, would you like to give this a rating?
Well, originally I was going to give it just a 5. Mm-hmm. But as usual, talking with it through you, I think it's raised it up to like a 6 because there are elements I really kind of, especially after thinking about it, of as a bit of a tribute to some Silver Age kind of story, even though it doesn't mesh very well. I appreciate the attempt.
Yeah,
I guess, and it's not Sienkiewicz's best work by any means. I think there's even better work in some earlier. It seems kind of rushed in some of the storytelling, but the faces and the figure work and all that stuff is great. It's just not his greatest storytelling.
Yeah.
In picture. So yeah, I would give it a 6, whatever that would be on the.
Oh yeah.
I mean, most of volume 1 is an 8 or higher for me. So this is on the lower end.
Right. A 6 is okay. I think that's fine. I was about to give it a 6 as well.
Yeah, it's a little. I was. Yeah, I would be a little honest. Like I read this when I first got it, and as I was just running through a bunch of things, so it didn't stick. But reading it again, just yesterday, I was like, "Oh, that was kind of disappointing."
Yeah. I mean, it's
so a 6 for you as well.
Yeah, a 6. I mean, it's not a great issue, but I still enjoyed it because there were a couple of points of differences for me that kind of made it, I guess, something different than what I'd usually expect, in the fact that you have Jester, who's such a wacky character, and I think Moench does really well to encapsulate that character. I mean, there's only so many kind of maniacal villains that you can have, but this is the first time we kind of see it from Moench, and I think that's really cool.
And to be honest, it's Daredevil's Rogues Gallery is not a lot better than Moon Knight's.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they had to give him one of Spider-Man's villains to be his arch kind of nemesis.
Exactly. And what a villain he turned out to be, which is good. But other things, like I mentioned, the art, I found, you're right, there are a lot of better things in better examples elsewhere, but I liked how he drew Daredevil. Look, Daredevil's one of my favourites, so as well.
Yeah,
so
same.
So it is nice to see these guys don't team up often enough. But the pitfalls of this are that story, the tropiness of them, fighting and then teaming up together, all that sort of stuff, which is can get a little tiresome to go through. But yeah, there was enough here. Again, Moon Knight doesn't get a very big villain to fight. I mean, he beats his guy pretty easy, and he kind of joins in towards the end to get the Jester. So yeah, I think a 6 is deserved. I'd give it a 5 if I was struggling to read it, and I can't say I struggled when I read it.
No, I didn't struggle. Yeah. It was just a little disappointed.
It's just a little bit flat, but there are a few highlights there. So 6, I guess, Noel, that would be Getting Small Moon. I've got this back on here.
Getting Smaller?
Getting Small.
Oh, good. This is the rating system I like.
So, courtesy of the Khonshu's rating system, new listeners, this is a fellow High Priest Khonshu. He's got a rating 1 to 10. Getting Small's getting a lot of. There've been a few Getting Smalls, and there've been a few Solid Round Boys. So.
It's small SMOL, right?
SMOL, yeah. I don't even know what that just small, I guess.
I don't know what they were thinking when they came up with that, but that's all good.
It's all good. So anyway, there you go. Looney's very easy to pin. That was 6 out of 10 for this. Again, I'd urge you to read it. I mean, if you do find it an issue, pick it up, and if anything, have a look at the ads. As Knol and I were commenting, they are a treat. Back in the early 80s.
Pick up as many of these 80s floppies in the dollar bins as you can, because the prices are going to keep going up. I tried as much as last time I was at a comic store, which feels like forever ago. I picked up just a bunch of, I think I told you about this. It wasn't the last time I was there, but a store that has a lot of back issues. There was just a ton of 80s John Byrne Fantastic Fours out there for $0.25.
Yeah.
And it was just like, buy these things. If it's like, if you need to, dump some of your more modern ones that you can pick up in trades off somewhere, sell your Valiants, pick up some of these 80s Marvel and DC floppies, because it's worth it. Get yourself a small run, a story arc or something, just to look through them and appreciate because the reprints are great and the art is more true to probably what the artists want and stuff, but there's something to me personally, just the grittiness, the newsprint, the mistakes in printing and things that really remind me of when I was a kid and reading comics,
Yeah. It's just also as well on that, Noel, and for potentially younger listeners who are listening, I'd really recommend it as well. It's there's something different about about picking up an old comic, and I am talking about the way the comics were written then as well. So even if you're unfamiliar with the way comics are back in the, say, 70s or 80s, and you're just used to kind of the more modern stuff, just go pick up the old John Byrne Fantastic Four, or pick up some Moench Moon Knight, and just have a flick through. But pick it up as a floppy, because it's a different experience altogether, and you get the
it really is.
Yeah, the faded out inks. You get the feel of the paper. Like as you turn the page, it's that really kind of stock, kind of cheap stock back in the day.
Very cheap stock.
And there's something just really nice about it. And with really old comics, there's actually a bit of a smell to them as well. So,
yeah, they're all kind of mildewy too.
Yeah.
And it's good because it's really fun to read stories that are one and dones. There's so much decompression now, sort of in the post Brian Michael Bendis kind of era, where everybody stretches stories for so long, and it's really nice to be able to pick up like 3 issues and that's a whole arc.
Yep.
Moving on, or just sometimes done in just one comic, and it's just like there's something immediate about it, and it can be more fun. And comics don't always have to be the end of the world and something so serious. It's just a more fun time, and it's something like you'd pick up a comic, and it's something you just did to waste a small part of your afternoon or something, you know, and instead of having to invest your entire life reading like all of Ultimate Spider-Man, which is great.
Yeah.
But it's like you can't read something like that in the modern age and just be like the least we get now is maybe a 12-issue arc or something like that. It's all made for trade paperbacks or and it wasn't then. I mean, even just to if you pick up any of the Epic collections for the earlier stuff, you'll notice that just flipping through, you're like, oh, that, you know, it's single stories all collected together that you can just flip. You'll get through a story within just a few pages, pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's what comic books were from their inception up until kind of 2000. You know.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to say as well, and I do look. I do respect and appreciate all comic book fans and what they like doing. I understand, because earlier on as well, I was a collector myself. But I'm just going to say as well, Noel, there's something very liberating about not being as precious about your comic book as well, and taking it out and just having a good read with it, and not being afraid to actually thumb through it. You know what I mean? There's something quite charming about, especially the older runs as well. So similar as you're saying, you can get from bargain bins like at a quarter, you know, and that probably actually aids you in like, you know, you haven't spent $70 to buy this issue, so in which case you have to kind of you know, get the gloves out and stuff. The fact that it is just but you just read it for what it is.
It's a piece of art.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a piece of art. But it's comics. They're utilitarian, you know. It's something that you should hold and touch. And
use it.
I personally, I understand if people want to collect and have their that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's not me, you know. Quick story. I was once in a band on tour, and one of the band members is an art teacher, still is an art teacher, and we went to the Philadelphia Museum of Modern Art. You know, the famous one where Rocky runs up the stairs. And we got in, we kind of snuck our way in and said we were students, and so they gave us a discount, or we got in for free. Anyway, there's a big, we wanted to go there because there's a big Marcel Duchamp retrospective that's just housed in that museum, and it was very important for us to see. He's a big influence in my life and on my art and my point of view. But I was walking around the museum, and I turned around the corner, and there in kind of a small section is this giant Picasso painting called Three Musicians. Right. It's a pretty famous Picasso. It's a big one, you know, it's at least 6 feet tall, if not taller. And I was kind of in awe that I just walked around the corner and saw this Picasso painting. It was like, holy shit, I've never seen a Picasso so close that I could almost breathe on it. And my friend, the art teacher, comes up behind me and grabs my hand and puts it on the Picasso.
Oh, really?
So I touched the Picasso. And my heart jumped up into my throat, and I thought I was going to throw up and be arrested and have a heart attack. And I looked around, and nothing happened. And I ran up to him. I was like, you asshole, why did you just put my hand on that Picasso? And he goes, it's just art. It's real. It's something tangible. You should touch it. Yeah.
That's a good lesson.
And I was like, well, other than almost getting arrested, and I wouldn't suggest people go and touch art, but it was a reminder that it's made by a human being. It's it's not. Someday that painting will fade away, just like all of these comics will fade away. And so it's good to appreciate what you have. And sure, if you've got your Werewolf by Night, first appearance of Moon Knight locked up, that's cool. But if you also have it just sitting in a bag, in a box, and you like to read it, that's even cooler to me.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And not throwing any shade on collectors at all, but it's just try it. If you haven't done it, or if you're afraid to, just try and get a second copy, even if it's a 2.0 grade, whatever. And
read what they call reading copies, or just go in those back bins. And if you see issue 14 of Cloak and Dagger and you've never read it before, pick it up.
Pick it up
if it's a quarter. Yeah. See if you like it.
And then if you don't have enough space, just give it to a library or something, or give it away, because these things are made to
give it to a kid.
Exactly, these things are made to be read and let breathe some life into it by going through it. So anyway, I say that because Knol, you have because you bring your floppies every time we do a review. And I thought, okay, well, instead of reading off my epic collection, I'll read off the good stuff. And I really enjoyed it. I think it was really, really good. If only I can get some cheap bargains here, I would be buying up. But yeah, hopefully maybe Kings, when they reopen, after all it's said and done, that I can maybe pick up a few odd old issues. But there we go. Before we go, Knol, there's just a couple of... it's got here Mooney missives, but I actually saw in, I think it's Mark Spector Moon Knight or something, they called them night lines, which I think is a lot more cooler. The letters page.
Right.
Anyway, we've only got a couple here. I don't know, do you want to take one, Knol, if that's okay? It's from YouTube.
I didn't even see them.
Okay. It's from YouTube, and it's actually for previous episodes that we've done, so I just wanted to give a shout out from the same guy as well.
Is this from CMK72?
Yeah. Just from
Chris Kelly.
Yep, from YouTube.
This is from YouTube. Oh, this is about Josh's fill-in episode, which I also quite enjoyed. I know he was quite down on himself and thought he was boring, but I really liked it. Yeah. I like to listen to old JJ Babylon by himself. I think it's I find it quite amusing, especially when you get to know, the group. Just hearing somebody talk about it, it's like, oh, I feel like I know this guy, and I like to hear him. Anyway, this is what Chris Kelly has to say for about episode 142. Fantastic job filling in, Josh! ! 3 spaces. Great overview of the 90s run. I gotta admit, I feel the same way. I felt the same way at the time. The stories and art didn't work for me personally. So I have very few issues of Mark Spector Moon Knight. So thanks so much for the overview and covering the highlights! ! Moon Knight did have some pretty amazing feats during that run, and they're certainly worth acknowledging. I agree. I don't like Mark Spector Moon Knight is probably my least favorite title, even though there are some great bits in that whole run, like Scarlet.
Yes.
Is a really great.
Yep.
Run. I'm not a fan of a lot of He Shall Not Be Named work in there, even though there's some decent stuff in there. But yeah,
I mean,
couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like more than half of the Mark Spector run. I think it really does go down with Terry Kavanagh, and although I did enjoy reading the issue 39 and 40 that Josh reviewed, which was a Kavanagh thing, it's much of his later stuff and Stephen Platt, it's not really much for me, but the earlier stuff...
No, I enjoyed that too, just because it was, anytime you put Dr. Doom in anything,
exactly.
I don't even care.
and a lot of that is nostalgia for me as well. Like, so
Same.
The particular issues that I read, I have a connection to when I was younger. So thank you, Chris. And Chris actually also gave feedback for episode 143, and he said, such a fun episode. Phil did another amazing job filling in, LOL. All the top 5 picks I couldn't agree with more, although I would have Maleev and Smallwood higher for me personally, even higher than Finch, even though I love Finch as well. I mean, the guy is a legend. Thank you, Chris. I guess that's justified. I mean, again, it's your opinion, which is fantastic, and there's no right or wrong. But yeah,
No.
I love Finch as well, but I would give Malieve.
Not me.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, exactly. And everyone's entitled to their opinion.
So that's another thing. When I was talking about Edward stuff at the top of the episode, it's like I think Malieve took some of that too.
Yeah.
It's kind of sketchier and raw in a way than his normal. Even though he's pretty sketchy and raw, it's even more sketchy and raw. And like that looks like T. Edwards stuff, kind of, to me.
Right. It was deliberate. It has to be.
So bringing it all back around.
Yeah, it has to be deliberate because his stuff on Daredevil is so different, I find. But yeah, and Smallwood as well. I think Smallwood's great. So thank you so much, Chris, for those bits of feedback. Thank you, Knol Loony Toonz.
Thank you, Ray ITK.
Thanks for jumping on. Let's not mention
Ramblin' Ray, that's it.
Ramblin' Ray. Trademark. Let's not talk about the Gremlins, but I'm just glad that we got on board and we're off and running, and we're kind of rounding out now. Now, before we end, Knol, Spectacle, I just want to say, is there anything that you want to give a plug to while you're here?
Did you prompt anything for me to plug? I don't know. There's not a lot going on.
Did you?
Oh, I am selling. I'm selling art. That's one thing you mentioned. Yeah. If I've been for cheap. I've been selling a lot of the drawings I've been made. If you look at Tate_drawings, which is my Instagram page of just where I post a photo that I've drawn every single day, I've been going through and selling pieces for $25 American, plus a couple bucks for shipping, just to make up for some of the work that's been cut down on my end for my normal recording and mixing and producing stuff.
Yeah.
So, and then I've been doing a few commissions as well. I did actually one for our fellow Looney Tommy of his family.
Awesome.
Which I think is supposed to be a gift, so I hope his wife doesn't listen to this episode.
Oops.
And yeah, for also like commissions just for $100, and I'll basically draw whatever you want me to draw in my style. So yeah, I've been doing that and thinking about expanding my world beyond music. We had talked earlier about maybe just looking into getting into some more podcast production stuff, not talking necessarily, but sweetening up or editing other people's podcasts, if that's something anyone is interested in, making your voice sound better or louder or edited better so you don't hear yourself go duh all the time like we all do in these podcasts. Yeah, doing some of that stuff. Not much is happening on the music front right now. Deleter, we obviously haven't even been able to get together to play music for a while, so that's one of the things that's really changed in life. That's usually I'm used to us getting together once a week and hanging out with my friends and being loud, and it's really sad not to see those guys because they're my best friends, and music is a big part of all of us. So
I can imagine,
but
yeah, I can imagine it would be quite hard as well. But I just wanted to say, as well, although you guys aren't out and about, there is a Deleter Bandcamp website as well. So anyone that hasn't picked up any of your previously released stuff can do so as well. Just check it out on the Deleter Bandcamp website.
Yeah, and if the Patroonies are actually going to see this before, probably, but this past Friday, I guess now when this episode is released, but this coming Friday, I don't remember what the date is.
Oh, it's 28th to here, actually. Oh,
yeah, it's 28th here. So this coming Friday the 1st, I guess Bandcamp is doing another one of those things where they aren't taking their own their fee, the corporate fee for it. So all the money, minus probably the PayPal transaction, goes right to the bands.
Oh, fantastic.
So normally they take like a 15% off every sale or something. Yeah. But this week on Friday, they're waiving that.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, well, I'm hoping actually to get this Knol out to Patroonies at least tomorrow, Wednesday, And so regular listens on Thursday. So you'll have time for it. Loonies, if you do listen to this, go do it. Apologies to Tommy's wife if you have listened to this. Tommy, I hope you have dulled down the volume there just in time for Noel's surprise. But yeah, no, fantastic. Anyway, go check it out. Loonies, it's all going to be on the show notes. And check out Noel's Instagram as well. Very cool indeed. Well, next phase, Loonies, again, I'm going to try to get in midweek because I was looking for a waxing gibbous. I'm trying to avoid toy action figures or video game reviews because, you know, they're pretty scant. Not slant. They're pretty scant. They're pretty scant. Yeah. So
sideways.
Yeah, a bit sideways. So I'm looking for a waxing gibbous. We've got that on Wednesday. It's going to be a trade or arc review over the moon. So check that out. I haven't decided yet what it is. We'll figure it out later on. Also, again, rounding out this show, a big thank you to all the Patreon members. Please consider becoming a patron, a patroonie. Just check out our Patreon page on patreon.com/ITK Moon Knight. We're sponsored by Hello Headphones. As mentioned, use code ITK Moon Knight as a promo to get 10% off their online store. We're also affiliate members to Amazon and Entertainment Earth, so if you do like action figures, just click on our link or Amazon to get some graphic novels. A little bit goes our way as well for that. We are part of the collective. Please keep listening to these great shows. EMP, Earth's Mightiest Podcast. On YouTube, I Am Your Target Demographic, fantastic show. And Resurrections, Thanos and Adam Warlock podcast.
And The Signal of Doom.
And The Signal, big shout out to Dave. Dave and The Signal of Doom, doing it well there with his new co-host, Natasha. Ripping it up. I think he's releasing a Jump Shot, a short episode to satiate you during the week. So Signal always burning bright. Finally, you can contact us on email, itkmoonnight@gmail.com, and we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Discord, Get Vocal. We have a website on Libsyn and WordPress and on Podchaser as well. So, after saying all that, thank you so much, Loonies. Thank you, Noel.
Thank you, Ray.
Have a good day. You've got a pretty big microphone there, I see.
I have a lot of these things.
Yeah.
I pick a new mic almost every episode.
That's cool. And with that, Loonies, may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Bye-bye.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.